Well, good early evening on the East Coast. Good afternoon on the West Coast, everybody. It's time for Material Issues. It's Wednesday, April 3rd in the year of 2024. This is episode number 148. I'm Mark Hershberger of Pop Detective Records. You see it right down there below my name, popdetective.com. We've got a great new website out. So if you're looking for Pop Detective releases, go to popdetective.com. And speaking of releases, always good to see my good friend in the early afternoon on the West Coast, Mr. David Basher, president of the International Pop Overthrow Festival. His season is about to get busy. Good afternoon, David.
Speaking of releases, well, that was kind of premature. Get it?
Rowan and Martin.
Yes. Yes, good to see you, Mark. And you're right. IPO season is going to be well underway in a couple of weeks. We start in Chicago, April 19th through 27th at Montrose Saloon. And after that, we have Liverpool, Copenhagen, Stockholm, LA, San Diego, Vancouver, New York, Boston, and Toronto, all lined up.
Is that it? Is that it?
Yeah, 10. Well, that's 10 cities. It's not so bad.
That's not bad at all, man. That's a busy schedule. Especially that Liverpool, Copenhagen,
Stockholm trilogy.
Yeah.
We're going to be gone for almost a month, so it's going to be a lot.
Great shirt, by the way. Great shirt you got on. Love that shirt. Loving the shirt.
Thank you. Yeah, it's a new purchase. Again, a lot of people hate Facebook ads, but I welcome them because, the way I look at it is if you get an ad you don't want, you just hit that X, goes away. Eventually they get the message and stop sending them. But I love getting these shirt ads because a lot of these companies sell these shirts at very low price. Yeah. I mean, the material is not the best, but it feels fine on me. And I'm not going to wear them a lot, so they're not going to wear out.
Yeah.
So it works for me.
Good on camera. Check this out. This is brand new.
What do you got? The Lawrence Welk Show, huh? Nice.
Right.
Does that commemorate the one when his singers did One Toke Over the Line?
Yeah. Oh, man.
Is that clip still up on YouTube?
It's got to be. It's got to be.
It's been taken down and put back up. And
man, I grew up on Lawrence Welk. Wonderful, wonderful. My parents watched it all the time. I loved it.
That is a very cool shirt. Yes. Yeah, cool of course, among the ads that I get are watch ads, and this one didn't come from a watch ad, but it matches the yellow and black flower. It's my Young'uns competition.
Oh,
the
nice.
One that has all the
push buttons on top.
The push buttons and the crown on top, which makes it a little hard to set, but it looks cool. It looks like a racing stopwatch, and indeed, this is a racing watch. And Young'uns, a great German watch company. I love this one. It's very, I wear it as often as just about anything else. Let's see what else. Oh, yesterday in the mail, I got something very cool, and I think some of our listeners will appreciate this. Listeners, watchers. It's a brand new book, The Beach Boys by the Beach Boys, and it's interviews with all the Beach Boys, or virtually all. Yes, there are Carl and Dennis interviews from back in the day. So it completes it. The photo, I don't want to display it because it's too unwieldy right now for that. Yeah. But the photos are amazing. There's a lot of stuff that I haven't seen before, and it covers everything up till about 1980. Which, let's face it, we don't need to know anything after that. It means that we don't have to talk about Kokomo, which is a good thing.
There is no
among others
Kokomo chapter.
Yes. But it does, it's the book. Hello, John Borak. Yeah, I don't think Rocky Pamplin is interviewed in this book, John. But some people have criticized the fact that David Marks, Ricky Fattar, and Blondie Chaplin aren't on the cover. But I mean, you don't want the cover to be full of pictures. 6 is enough, to paraphrase the show title. And they are interviewed in the book. They're interviewed quite a bit, in fact. So people just need to get over it. I mean, there are some people who just want to criticize anytime anything happens. I just got this, so I've only skimmed through some of the interviews, but looks great. Picked it up on Amazon, received yesterday, so it worked out perfectly. And I would obviously recommend this to any fan of the Beach Boys.
Looks great.
Who are up. Well,
and all color pictures too, color, black and white, all kinds of pictures.
Oh, lots of, I mean, both color and black and white. And like I said, lots of really cool ones I've never seen from all, periods of the band. So it's really, really cool.
Yeah, nice.
Well, speaking of cool, this gentleman that we have on is very cool. As I mentioned in my first write-up about him as being a guest, he was a member of some very cool bands, including Sagittarius and the Millennium. And this is the Millennium collection. It's the Millennium Ballroom tapes. The Ballroom is another band that he was in. These are all Kurt Betcher masterminded bands. This collection is called Magic Time, and I had the honor of writing the liner notes for it. And it was a really fun process interviewing every member except Kurt, because Kurt's been gone for many, many years. This is around 2001. And everyone was really gracious. Well, everyone but one person, but not our guest. He was wonderful, as he always is. So we've got that. And there have been many releases of his music that had previously been unreleased. And one of the probably the best and most realized is this album called Sandy, which I believe was scheduled to come out and was shelved, which is really a shame. But fortunately, the tapes were found. It's been released with many different covers. Here's another one.
Mm-hmm.
And here's another one.
I was going to say the blue one, yeah.
Yeah, and there are more for sure. And there are other collections as well. But we're celebrating the upcoming release, and when I say upcoming, I mean in a couple of days, of this new album on Sunday's Music, Mellow as Sunshine, which has demos that he wrote and recorded between 1966 and 1968. And it's really a really charming collection. And he's a really charming guy. So without further ado, let's give a huge Material Issues aloha to Mr. Sandy Salisbury.
And there he is.
Hey, Sandy.
Hey, guys.
Aloha. Yeah, nice to see you, Sandy. Good early afternoon. I keep
now, Sandy, you may have seen me present that Beach Boys book. Did you have the pleasure of meeting and knowing Brian Wilson?
I met Brian briefly. I can't say that I knew him, but I was great friends with Gary Usher, who was, of course, one of Brian's cohorts. And I did get to see Brian do some work in the studio. I watched him mix Good Vibrations, at least partially.
Oh, wow.
The whole band, the Millennium, we were in another studio down the hall, and we just went down there to watch him do his thing, and we were dead silent watching this guy do this genius work. It was quite amazing. That's really all the contact I had with Brian Wilson, but I was a huge, huge, huge Beach Boy fan. That book you just showed is one I got to get myself right there.
That was just to piggyback on that real quick. Was Brian Wilson, was his reputation and being that close to him, was it as awe-inspiring during that time as it is for us looking back on it, not having been a part of that scene close to him? I mean, were you looking at Brian Wilson at the time and going, "Oh my God,"
Not really. I think his reputation and his genius sort of emerged over time in people's minds. At that time, the Beach Boys were huge, of course, and it was just the fact of being that close to somebody so successful. It was kind of thrilling for me. Just this guy from Hawaii, just here I am, found myself amongst all these superstars and not knowing how the heck I got there, but just being so grateful for it. It was quite a moment. And the same type of thing happened with Janis Joplin. We went down the hall and watched her record, and that was quite an experience as well. She was a wild lady, I tell you.
That seems to be, I don't want to say a common theme, but it's one I've heard several times, about people recording in another studio in a building and somebody walking down the hall, hearing what they're doing and thinking, wow, this is unbelievable. And from what I understand, that's kind of what happened with Kurt Betcher, when Brian heard him in a studio down the hall, that he went down and said, I don't remember who he said it to, but who is this kid? Is that how it happened? Were you there?
I'm not sure how
you weren't there.
Yeah.
No,
that could be urban legend or it could be true, but there have been quotes. So,
but a lot of people, David, that we've interviewed on this program have said very similar stories. They were in a studio somewhere, and somebody was in a couple studios over, and that's how they met X. And it's just like, to me, it's like, wow, someone just comes walking into your sessions and says, I like this, and walking down to Brian's session and watching him mix good vibrations. I mean, for us in retrospect, it's like, oh, wow. But I think that's why I had the question at that time when you were in it, was it or was it like, oh, wow, this guy's famous, and this is kind of cool.
Well, I was definitely wowed, I'll tell you that.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, nice.
Now you were born in Philadelphia, but you were raised in Hawaii. How did that? What brought you to Hawaii? And please don't say an airplane.
Well, my mother, on my mother's side, my family's been in Hawaii since 1820.
Oh wow!
And when she went away to college, she was an art student. She went to Boston, and I guess she went down to the Naval Academy to party with her friends, and she met my dad, who was a cadet at the Naval Academy, and they got married there. And then I was born in Philadelphia, and then when I was a year old, actually when I was 2 months old, my mom took me back to Hawaii because my dad was deployed. He was in the U.S. Navy. He was a Navy pilot. Flew off aircraft carriers in the Pacific War. And my mom took me back to Hawaii in a cardboard box on a ship going from San Francisco to Hawaii, zigzagging across the ocean, trying to, watch out for submarines and things like that.
Oh,
that's how I got to Hawaii. But she'd been there her whole life. And so then I ended up, of course, living there until I went away to college. So Hawaii is really my home state. But I live here in the Pacific Northwest now, which I love. I love being on the mainland. I spent a great deal of time, actually, David, in LA.
Sure.
And I just, the West Coast was great. And Mark, on the East Coast, I did do some studying in Vermont, spent some time up there. And my dad grew up on Long Island, so I've got connections.
You got connections both sides. Yeah, nice. Well, would you say that growing up in Hawaii, that Hawaiian music had a pretty big influence on? I mean, we call a lot of what you did soft pop or sunshine pop, which, I mean, obviously a lot of Hawaiian music is very soft, sunshiny pop.
Mellow, yeah.
Yeah. Influenced by Hawaiian music?
Well, I love Hawaiian music. I really do. And because I love Hawaiian music, I love country music, because the two are similar to me because of the steel guitar. And I think the influence of the Hawaiian Paniolos, which were Portuguese descendant mostly, brought the guitar brought the guitar to Hawaii. To me, they're kind of similar. Hawaiian music, country music, and what I love to do is kind of in this little melting pot of specific kind of soft music. but I think that I was influenced more by what I heard on the radio in the 5th and 6th grade, 7th grade, than I was by Hawaiian music.
And what were you hearing?
I was hearing some great stuff. I got to tell you a story how music started for me.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, please.
The music started for me around age 10 because my mom at that time had lost 2 husbands. My first dad was killed in the war, and my first stepfather died, when I was 10. And my mom in Hawaii became a single mom, and I had 3 sisters, so there were 4 of us, and we were kind of just all over the map, just kind of out there, kind of wild kids. We were good kids, but we were just sort of turned loose. Mom said, go out and do something. So that's what we did, and which was great. So anyway, she was overwhelmed. So I don't know where she found this nanny person. It was a 16-year-old girl from Texas who came to live with us, and her name was Lynn. And she was kind of a very sarcastic in a humorous way. Nothing was sacred to her, and she and I had this love-hate relationship. And she brought music into our house. When she came, she brought this guy who played the guitar and made the best music I'd ever heard in my life. It just got me going. She kept playing it on this big record player we had. It was a big, album. And his name was Elvis Presley. And she played this album over and over and over. And I love this song called Hound Dog. And so I kept asking her, play Hound Dog, play it over and over. So I started singing along with it. And then I said, well, look, the picture of him on the front, he had this guitar and stuff. So I had this ukulele in my closet. So I went to my closet. I got this little tiny ukulele out, and I brought it out into the living room. And I'd say, play Hound Dog. And she put it on. And I'd pretend I was playing the guitar, and I'd sing, you ain't nothing but a hound dog, cracking all the time. And I would say cracking all the time. I knew he was singing crying all the time, but I'd say cracking all the time. And that drove Lynn up the wall. She said, he's not saying cracking, he's saying crying. If you say that one more time, I'm going to pull your ears off. And so my mom thought all of this was hilarious. So every time she'd have friends over, she'd say, go get your ukulele and come out here and do Hound Dog. So I come out with my ukulele and I do Hound Dog, and I'd say cracking all the time. And Lynn would be in the background just fuming. Oh, it was just so much fun. Well, because of that, because of all the fun that I had, and because of Elvis Presley, and because of Lynn, I developed a huge love of music, and it stuck with me in my entire life. And so I would say Elvis brought me into the music world, and Lynn.
Elvis and Lynn.
Yes.
And how about the Beatles?
Texas and Elvis from Memphis.
And how about the Beatles from Liverpool a little bit later?
Oh, yes, they sure did. And the Beach Boys. Yeah.
Now, with that ukulele, did you, what was your first musical venture instrument wise? Did you play ukulele? What got you into actually playing music? Was your mom musical, or how did that even come about?
Well, I didn't play in it. My mom tried to get me to take piano lessons, but the piano teacher was so boring. I just couldn't do it. I just could not do it. And that's one of my biggest regrets. If I had learned how to play the piano and read and write music, I could have done so much more.
Mm-hmm.
That is my biggest musical regret, is not learning how to play the piano. Be that as it may, I did what I did. But so in the 7th grade, my mom kicked me out of the house. And I say that in a loving, good way. She sent me away to a boarding school on the island of Hawaii, it was only 50 miles away from our house, but I went there and I lived there and I boarded there for 6 years, all the way through high school.
Wow.
I had the time of my life. It was just fabulous. The best gift my mother ever gave me, because it was there that I learned all my values and my ethics and all that. We had a really strong headmaster, and it's been just, it was boys' school at the time. And I was with all these boys who were just basically kicked out of their houses. And we got together and had a fabulous time.
Did you form a band at all with any of them?
Yeah. Okay. In the 7th grade, when I first got there, I mean, the first day that I arrived there, I remember there was this kid, he must have been a year or two older than me, was sitting on the steps of a dormitory playing a guitar and singing an Everly Brothers song. All I Have to Do Is Dream.
Mm-hmm.
And I go, oh my, that is so cool. So a little later that year, maybe a couple months, I went to my mom and said, I asked her if I could have a guitar. And she said, sure, I'll get you a guitar. And she got me this guitar. And it was a guitar I still wish I had. It was a little dark Martin guitar.
Oh, nice.
And so that's how I got a guitar. And one of my teachers, actually all my teachers were young men from Ivy League colleges, basically. Some were married, some were not. Well, this guy was an awesome flamenco guitar player.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
And I learned how to play, some strumming and some kind of flamenco-y things from him. And I learned chords from another kid that was in school with me. Is one of those guys that could play any instrument that you put in his hands. There are guys that can do that.
Right. Yeah.
And so I ended up forming a trio with him and another guy, a guy from California. So he was from Maui, I was from Hawaii, and this other guy was from Santa Barbara. And the three of us formed a little group called the Somerset Three. And we sang folk songs. And we were, I remember, greatly influenced by another Hawaii group called the Kingston Trio.
Oh, yeah.
And and when I heard Scotch and Soda by the Kingston, when I heard that song, I said, that is me. That's
Wow.
me right there. So
Wow.
I developed this love for these kind of far out chords, these diminished and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't know what I was doing. I just learning chords. I didn't really know how they all went together or what they were called. I just started putting chords together, and we played these folk songs, and we had one gig we played at a steakhouse down in Kailua Kona. And that was a lot of fun. That was really the first time that we had ever played off campus. And it was the first time I had ever been on a stage. And so it just kind of all developed in high school. It wasn't a huge thing for me in high school, but it was an important part of my life. And, when I don't know if either of you play guitar, but if you play guitar, you cannot pass a guitar and not want to touch it, pick it up. It's just impossible. So
Yeah.
and I still have that.
Now, was there next to you said it was an all boys school, boarding school. Was there an all girls school like half a mile down the road that you could go and gig at and get all the girls?
No, we had to bring them in by airlines.
Wow.
When we had our prom, we would invite girls, but they would be from another island. They would fly them in. We go pick them up by bus, and they'd come and stay at various houses around. And of course, everybody was highly chaperoned.
No, so you didn't you didn't know any of these girls, so you didn't know who your date was going to be, or
Well, basically, I asked a friend, from another island, hey, you know anyone I can ask? And so,
Oh, wow.
it was, when I went away to college, I was pretty naive and not very experienced with girls. And my first year of college was at the University of Vermont. And I was so afraid to ask a girl out that I barely went on any dates.
Mm. Well, which is interesting because we talked to a lot of '60s artists on our show here, and so many of them got into playing in high school bands because that's how they got the girls. The girls thought the guys in the band were cool and they wanted that. And so it's an interesting perspective that you went to an all male boarding school where there wasn't a girls' school right down the block, and you're getting in and making music with guys, but you're not doing it for the attention of the females, so to speak. It's just a different perspective. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, we did it for the music. We really enjoyed making music, and because this one guy who could play anything was such a musical genius, we were just kind of wowed by what he could do. And so I often wonder whatever happened to him. I don't. After high school, he just kind of vanished. So I don't know whatever happened to him.
Wow.
As an aside, Sandy, because we were talking about Hawaiian music, are you familiar with a group from Hawaii called the Allies?
I'm not. No.
I think it's AL. It might be ALIIS, but
Ali'is.
Pardon?
Ali'is.
Oh, is that how they pronounce it?
Ali'i. Yeah, that's.
God, boy, did I reveal my ignorance on this show.
The Allies.
Yeah. Well,
it's like
when you move out to California. Where's this place, La Jolla? I never heard of it.
Yeah, it's kind of
La Jolla. Yeah, I'm sorry. The Ali'is. Okay, that makes a lot more sense.
It's kind of like the Kings. The Kings. Ali'is.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay. Well, they had a really cool soft pop song called "The Sound of Children." Does that sound familiar?
It does not. No.
Okay.
Wow.
You should look for that one. I think it would be right in your wheelhouse. Anyway, wow. I had to go there. I had to come up with some off the cuff question. I'm going to really impress this guy, and then I end up pronouncing it.
I remember the Allies.
Completely wrong. I just figured they were the Allies and just doing a play on, and I should have known because double I is something that's used in Hawaiian, and I didn't.
Yeah.
It's even in the name of the state, for God's sake.
Hey, well, you got the shirt.
That was a good direction, though, David. I was impressed until it was corrected. I was really impressed, but I'm still impressed.
Anyway, so all right, so you're in Hawaii, you're doing all this stuff, and then you go out to LA. And what makes you want to go there? Are you at this point wanting to be a professional musician?
Well, there's a little bit more to the story before LA.
Okay.
I went to the
in Vermont, where the girls were dressed in heavy sweaters and coats, couldn't see him anyway. But
I finally did go out on the date with the gal who played the cello in the orchestra. She was very nice. But on the way to the University of Vermont, I stopped in New York City and bought a 12-string guitar.
Oh, wow.
And boy, that thing was beautiful. And when I was up in Vermont in my first freshman year of college, I played in a talent show. I played House of the Rising Sun on this 12-string guitar. And I can't even remember how well I did, but it was really fun to do that. And eventually I parted ways with that 12-string because it was really hard to play and extremely hard to tune. So I don't have one of those ears, I could tell, some people can do it. I can't. I need a tuning fork and all that kind of stuff. But anyway, so I didn't do really well in my first year of college. So I went back to Hawaii to figure out what I was going to do after my first year. So I decided I'm going to go back to college. I'm going to go to a junior college. So I said, I want to be near the water and I want to be on the mainland. So I chose Santa Barbara City College. And I went there and I loved Santa Barbara.
Beautiful place. Absolutely gorgeous.
And while I was there, I fell in love with, again, music that I heard on the radio. And there was this one song by the Kinks. You really got me. You really got... And I, because of that song, I fell in love with the bass. And I said, I'm going to learn how to play bass. So I got a bass and I learned how to play bass. And at Santa Barbara City College, I saw on the bulletin board a couple of high school boys were looking for a guitar player, or a bass player actually, to join their group. And so I called them up and we formed this little group. And
I actually have to take this. So Mark, carry on.
Go ahead, Sandy.
yeah, and so we formed this little group and we played Wedding or two and things like that. It was nothing really exciting, but it was fun. And then somehow, I can't really remember how, but I think I got invited to join another group. So there were another two guys who were older, about my age, and they were really good guitar players. One is a lead guitar player, another was another guy who could play any instrument. So we had two guitars and my bass, and then we needed a drummer. So we put up an ad and we found this drummer. So the drummer happened to be 10 years older than the rest of us. And he knew the world of music. He was this totally experienced guy. And we were just three dweebs. We were just, greenies. And so we formed this group called The Chances.
I just want to catch up. You're still in Santa Barbara at this point.
I was still in Santa Barbara at the time. And
yeah, so, he was just telling how he got together with John Lennon. It was really cool. And go ahead, Sandy.
Whenever I hear the Beatles 8 days a week, I think of Santa Barbara.
This was in April 1st.
And this is The Chances, and it is spelled with two I's at the end, David. So go ahead, Sandy.
CHANCIIS.
Yeah.
The chant it is.
So not the Allies. So no, anyway. So here we are. We got this new group of Chances, and there are three of us. We're like 19 years old or something like that. I don't know, 20 or something. And this guy was almost 30, and he was from Texas, and he was a really good drummer, but kind of a wild man. And he had connections all over the West. So he got us a gig. He said, "Boys, we're going on the road. We're going to go to play at this place called Red's Roost in Yuma, Arizona." So, yes, we're on the road. We're a real band. So we were just a cover band. Of course, we didn't have very many original things. So we packed everything into our car with a trailer thing on the back with all our equipment. And we're driving down to Yuma when we hear a commercial on the radio for Red's Roost. And the guy was saying on the radio, "Come on down the Red's Roost. There's this brand new band called The Chances, and they're from England." That dang Gary, our drummer, he's such a BSer. He said, "Well, if we say," he told Red Rambo was the name of the guy that owned the place. He said, "If you say that we're from England, people are going to come see us because the Beatles are really hot."
Oh, Lord.
Well, that's why when the Turtles were the Crossfires, they affected British accents because they wanted people to think they were from there.
Here we are in the car, the three of us, and we're just kind of, what? We didn't have any idea this was going on. So we had to come up with some fake British accents really quick. So we go down to play in Red's Roost, and it was really great. It was just kind of a dive bar, but boy, did we have a good time in there. But anyway, I remember one night we were playing up on the pedestal band, and down below these four Marines came in from a nearby Marine base, and they sat in one of the booths, and everybody's partying up, and these guys are sitting there almost stone-faced watching us play. And here we are, kind of long hair and, different culture than the Marines. And then during the break, one of the Marines called me over, and he asked me, "You guys are pretty good." He says, "What part of London are you guys from? Or what part of England are you from?" And I had no notion of anything from the British Isles, except I knew the Beatles came from Liverpool. So I go, "Liverpool?" And the guy looks at me and he goes, "Bullshit." That's what he said. He said, "Tell me the truth." So I told him the story, and they thought it was hilarious, and he didn't kill me, and it was fun. But
Thank God for small favors, right?
yeah, God, he was about twice my size.
Oh, that's awesome. What a great story. I
Yeah.
love it.
So,
But not good. So you're playing the big time. You're playing Yuma.
yeah, we'd play Yuma, and then we were going to visit Gary's family. Gary's the drummer in Texas, and so we went through I don't know, a couple states. It's Oklahoma. I don't know. We went to Norman. Is that in Oklahoma? Norman.
Norman,
Yes, it
yeah,
is.
Oklahoma.
That's
Yeah.
where James Garner is from.
Yeah, we went to Norman Petty Studio. I think that's where.
Yeah, Norman
And
Petty Studio.
we went to that studio because Gary knew the people there, and we actually did. The first time I ever recorded anything was in that studio where Buddy Holly
Cool.
recorded, which was really a big deal. And so we did a little few songs in there. And then we ended up playing in Pocatello, Idaho, and Santa Barbara. Santa Barbara first, then Pocatello, Idaho. And while we were playing in Pocatello, Idaho, one of our guitar players and myself got letters from Uncle Sam. We got drafted.
Yikes.
So Uncle Sam said he wanted me to come down to LA to the induction center and get a haircut. So so the band broke up. And so I packed all my stuff up and drove down to LA. I was, figure out how to ship my stuff home to Hawaii and then go into the induction center and get sucked into Vietnam. And so when I got to LA, I had a few weeks before that was all to happen. I got a cheap apartment just off the Sunset Strip. And somehow somebody, apartment neighbor, invited me to a party of music people. And that's where I met Kurt Betcher.
Wow.
At that party. And we became instant friends. I mean, he and I were, both kind of the same size and, we liked the same kind of stuff. And so that's how I met him. But anyway, this looming thing about, getting drafted and going to Vietnam and, getting destroyed emotionally or dying or whatever. But just before I was to go in, I got another letter from the government saying that they had reclassified me as a sole survivor because my dad had been killed in World War II.
Wow.
And I was the only one to carry on the family name. And that right there saved my life, I'm sure.
This has to be the first Vietnam story that actually worked out for a musician. Because if you think about how many bands had to break up because of Vietnam, it may be more than how many bands actually were able to go forth from that time. Yeah. And here's one where because you were drafted, it brought you to LA to meet Kurt, which is amazing. And then you didn't have to go.
Yeah, I know it was just a total blessing. I mean, I was just, thank God.
I think the only other guest we've had on the show that had a Vietnam connection was Billy Terrell. Who wrote the book at his time in Vietnam, and then of course went on to work with Frankie Avalon and whatnot. But what a story! Get drafted and then go through that emotional roller coaster, and then you get a letter saying, on second thought, no, you're the sole survivor. Have a good life. That's a couple beers, right? I'll have a beer.
So wait, at this point, had you been writing the demos that appear on Mellow as Sunshine?
No, not yet. Okay, so I'm free of Vietnam. Okay, I'm finally free now. I'm in LA, and I said, what am I going to do? I still want to be in music, and so having met Kurt, who I need to step back just a little here to continue the story. On my way from Pocatello to LA to go into the Army, I heard this amazing song on the radio, and I'm driving down. This song just knocked my socks off, and it was a Kurt Betcher song. Along Comes Mary. And I go, oh, I got to hear that again. So I kept switching stations all the way to LA. I think I heard it 5 times before I got there. And that song just knocked my socks off. So when I met Kurt and discovered, I wasn't smart enough at the time, I heard it to know that Kurt Betcher had produced it. But when I met Kurt and discovered that he was the producer of that, and he was working with the association and all that, well, I thought I had died and gone in heaven. Here I was, and right in the middle of where I would have chosen to be. And, just all this stuff just happening. And so I started working with Kurt and a small-time music producer named Steve Clark.
Yeah.
And Steve and Kurt had their own little company called Our Productions. And so I started working for them as a songwriter. And they placed a couple of songs of mine, and it was pretty cool. And
didn't Steve Clark produce Tommy Rowe?
He may have, because we did Tommy Rowe. Yes, definitely.
Yeah, because I know you had a couple of songs on his fantasy album.
Right. Yeah, we did.
Okay.
Wow.
And it was about that time that Kurt pulled together the ballroom, and we started doing this really wild music. If you listen to "Baby Please Don't Go,"
I was going to ask you about that. How in the world, given everything else that's on here, which is just wonderful, soft, sweet sunshine pop, how in the world did you guys end up covering that song?
That was a Kurt Betcher thing. I think he had this penchant for bringing all these weird things into our music, and "Baby Please Don't Go," it's got just about everything you could think of in there, and it was just so wild and so much fun. I just love to listen to it. It's just like boom, 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 and it's different from everything else. And so we had a great time. Jim Bell was a really good oboe player, and Michelle O'Malley had a beautiful voice. And Kurt was, a magician as far as music goes. And here I am, this green musician from Hawaii, just kind of following along, happy to be there. And it was about that time, around that time, that I wrote 5 a.m.
5 a.m., which is one of the early tracks on the Millennium Begin album.
Yeah, and it was
which is part of this collection. By the way, Sandy, I don't know if you know this. I actually named this collection. They were going to call it Another Time after the Sagittarius song, and I said, "Well, wait a minute." I said, "There's no Sagittarius on here, but if you want a time song, how about Magic Time?"
There you go.
And that's a ballroom song, so why not? And they said, "You know what? Okay." So nice. There you have it.
Yeah, thank you.
My pleasure.
Well, he was going to call it the Allies, but
they told me I mispronounced it, and I said, "I'll have none of this."
I'll have none of this.
Thy ice.
Thy ice.
Yeah.
I can't handle it.
Okay. Whatever. Anyway, so what about the since this is what's coming out right now, I wanted to play some stuff from here. Actually, let's play a tune from it.
Yeah.
Let's play 6 o'clock. Tell us about that track.
You sure you want to do that one?
No, not if you don't want me to.
No, you can do that one. I wanted to be Frankie Valli too. If you played Justine, that was my attempt to be Frankie Valli.
No, I don't have that one loaded up.
Oh, okay. All right.
That's all right.
Well, I thought this was a really cool song, kind of reminiscent of.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
Oh, is that the CD version?
That's the CD version.
I don't have that yet. The CD has a bunch of bonus tracks from the LP. Anyway, here's Sandy.
Coming out Friday? Is it coming out Friday?
Friday, yes.
Friday, okay.
I will be at the record store immediately. Here is Sandy Salisbury from a track called Mellow Sunshine, 6 o'clock. Here we go.
6 o'clock. 1, 2, 3, 4. Everybody's getting home, shaking the day out, and giving a smile to someone they love. Then the sun goes down, so do all my worries. That's when I see what she really means to me. And then I settle down for hours and my life begins, and everything I'm living for is there with me. 10 o'clock, kinda tired, so I'll just lay here dreaming away my life. 1 o'clock, lying here loving the thoughts in my head after you said I love you. I love you. I love you.
Beautiful.
That's really beautiful. And actually, I got confused. That's the one that reminds me of Harry Nilsson, which were you familiar with his work at the time you wrote this? Or
Oh, yes, I was, but I was thinking Scotch and soda when I wrote that one.
Yeah.
oh, well, there you go.
Can I ask you something, Sandy? I mean, that's it's a gorgeous track, and we're scrolling across the bottom here a website, GrahamSalisbury.com. Can you kind of clear up why we're talking to Sandy Salisbury, yet the website is GrahamSalisbury.com?
Oh, yes, I have many names that confuse people to no end.
Is this how you got out of Vietnam? Really? I mean,
multiple personality disorder. That's true. No, you drafted Sandy. This is Graham. I don't know where Sandy is right now.
I see. I had a long career as a writer of books for young readers, and when my first book was published, I have 20 books out there. And when my first book was published, when it was accepted by my publisher, which at the time was Bantam Doubleday Dell, my editor said, "Well, this book could be for adults, or it could be for young adults. And what do you want? Do you want to write for young people or adults?" And I said, "Well, gee, I don't know. I had no idea there were books for young readers." So I said, "Then give me a couple of weeks to think about it." So I went to Borders, which was then in existence, and checked out the whole section of books for kids, which I had no idea existed. And I didn't know what I was looking for. So I just chose a book to read by its cover. I said, I just picked out a cover that I really liked. And I chose this book called Island of the Blue Dolphins by Scott Odell, and which was a fabulous book. And I loved this story. I loved everything about it. And I called up my editor and said, "I want to write books for kids." And she says, "Okay, fine. Do you want to be known as Sandy Salisbury?" And I said, "Well, maybe not, because people might think I'm a female." So I used my middle name. I said, "Let's call me Graham Salisbury." So that's how that developed. And so as a writer, I'm Graham Salisbury. As a musician, I'm Sandy Salisbury.
So it's perfect. You listen to your music, and it really makes perfect sense that you were writing children's books, because you're very sanguine. And one of the songs that really made me feel that made it all sort of come together for me was "Once I Knew a Little Dog," which is on this compilation. May I play that one?
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
Yeah. This is a really pretty song and very, very childlike. It's something that has to speak to kids. So here we go.
Once I knew a little dog. He was black and white and brown. Every day he'd come around, say hello and then be gone. I would wait for him each day, for when he would come my way, he would really make my day. Now it seems he's gone away. Though I am sad, it's not that bad. I should be glad that he is giving love to someone else like me. I can always think of him, how he'd lick me on the chin. Now when I remember him, I can say he was my friend.
I mean, any child that doesn't like that, you better give them therapy immediately, because that. So yeah, I mean, that song pretty much codifies the whole musician's writer of children's books things for me, anyway.
So Sandy, so this album that we're putting up right here, the Mellowest Sunshine, it's on Sundays, coming out Friday.
Right.
Do you have a link through your website there, or is your website basically your writing? And so if people are looking for this Sundazed album, the best is it to go to Amazon or all the normal places to find it?
Probably go to Amazon or go to Sundays.
Go to Sundays.
Yeah, Sundays for sure, and Amazon for pretty sure, I would imagine.
But
Yes.
via the GrahamSalisbury.com, people can find your books and all about everything you've written.
Yeah, and I also have a Facebook page, Graham.
And a
Salisbury.
Facebook page. Okay. I know I was reading through Under the Blood Red Sun early on, a couple of days ago, whenever I was getting prepared for this for this show. Yeah, you've done quite a lot as far as books are concerned. Wow. I mean, I didn't know 20 books under your wing. That's incredible. Yeah.
It was a fantastic time writing books and speaking to kids in schools. I mean, these are not picture books; they're novels. They're for third grade and up, third grade all the way through high school. And Under the Blood Red Sun is still today used in schools all over the country. So
that's wonderful.
Yeah.
So why did the Ballroom not get an album deal? Because there's certainly an album's worth of tracks here.
Gary Usher and Kurt Betcher and the people that, whatever they do, I don't know. I was not part of all of that. All I know is that it didn't work out. And at the time that the Ballroom broke up, I had to go find some work. So I found a job out in the valley, cutting flowers out of wood with a jigsaw.
Wow.
That the guy painted these flowers and they went in motels. I don't know, Motel 6s across the country or something. But that was my job, to cut flowers on a jigsaw. And I remember one day I was cutting, those things had sawdust all over me, and Kurt Betcher and I think Michael Fenley and maybe Joey Steck showed up at my work and asked if I wanted to quit that job and join a supergroup. and I said, I'm there.
Take the saw and shove it. No.
That was the beginning of the millennium, and that was just another super time. the Millennium, of course. And Kurt brought the 5 a.m. from the ballroom over to the Millennium, so it became a Millennium song. And I remember, I think our first single was "It's You."
Mm-hmm.
But Clive Davis, who was the big honcho at Columbia Records at the time, really liked 5 a.m. And so he wanted that to go out. And so it went out and became #1 in the Philippines.
Wow.
I had a #1 song in the
Just
Philippines.
think about it. Kids in the Philippines had their first kiss to that song.
Yes.
Yes, right.
And I mean, I don't know if I had a #1 single, I would be thinking about stuff like that. But maybe I'm just strange. But that's very cool. Yeah, the Millennium. I mean, people always, of course, put Sagittarius and the Millennium together. They were, hey Gary,
There you go.
they were recorded not too far apart, both on Columbia, both involving Kurt and Gary, and a supporting cast, including yourself. And but Millennium, of course, was the more psychedelic of the two, and from what I understand, was the most expensive record Columbia had done at the time. So they were expecting big things, but then they kind of dropped the ball and didn't promote it the way they should have, and it didn't become the hit that it should have. It's over the years, of course, gained a lot of cult status, and you'll actually see it on. I wish I should have brought the book out, but there's a book that had a top 100 albums of the 60s, and it was in there.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Well, it was a very costly album, and that was because of Kurt's style. He was not one to, write out charts and give us all our parts on charts and practice before we go in the studio. He did everything in the studio while the clock was running. So all our practice sections and all that were just, he'd say, this is what you're going to sing, and we'd have to memorize it. And that's kind of how it worked out, and that's why it cost so much money. Mm-hmm. But it worked for us. I mean, we did good music that way.
Well, yeah, you really did. It's just unfortunate that one of my all-time favorite songs, by the way, by anybody, is "There Is Nothing More to Say," which is on that album. And do you know that of all people, Maureen McCormick and Chris Knight of the Brady Bunch did a cover of that?
Oh, really? I did not know that.
They're Paramount Studios, which ran the Brady Bunch, had them put out a record. Why they paired those two? None of whom could sing, by the way. They did, and that was one of the songs they were given to sing, and they changed the lyrics. There's nothing about "might seem strange" or anything like that. So they completely, not that the lyrics were lascivious in any way, but they sanitized it to the point where it's really almost a different song. I figure you might get a kick out of that. But yeah, so you guys might be due some Brady Bunch royalties. I don't know, just might be worth investigating.
Yeah, because that album probably sold millions, right, David?
I would say at least 300, maybe.
Right up there with the Allies.
The Allies, right?
You're not going to live that one down.
No, I try, and I don't, and I deserve not to, for sure. Now,
awesome.
All right, so the Millennium unfortunately doesn't do what everybody hoped it would. Is that around the time that you started writing and recording the songs for this album?
Yeah, when that ended, Kurt and Gary started their own label, Mimu Music, and went out to the Valley, to Sound City, I believe it was called, and recorded that album that you just showed there. And that was a lot of fun. That was my solo. It was supposed to be my solo album. And I got to, sort of pick the songs I wanted on there. And one of them, Come Softly by the Fleetwoods.
Yeah.
Was one of my all-time favorites. You know, that's my style, that kind of song. And I remember Kurt had me stick my head inside a grand piano to sing that song, so it'd get the resonance of the grand
is that what that is? Okay.
Yeah.
And there are some pretty cool up tempos. Like Spell on Me has a bit of a bubblegum vibe, and Goody Goodbye has that psychedelic stuff going on. But I wanted to play my favorite song of yours from this album. And this was written by Michael Fennelly. But to me, it kind of has that twangy thing that you're talking about. You're talking about the love of country music. Well, although this song isn't exactly country, it's got the twang and the title, the way it's spelled, with instead of OLD, OL apostrophe. But this song absolutely destroys me every time I hear it. So from the Sandy album, which finally came out on Pop Tones and many other labels in the early 2000s, here we go with the good old good times.
Why didn't the Brady Bunch cover that one?
Yeah.
Well, you know what? It does remind me, and I love this group to pieces. It reminds me a bit of the Cowsills.
Oh yeah,
maybe because of Indian Lake, because there is a bit of that sort of pounding thing going on. And was Navajo Girl yours also?
Yeah, me. I think I wrote that with Gary Usher.
Yeah. So, and that has that same sort of feel. So it's interesting that, but. Yeah, I mean, that twang, that foreshadowed. There are a lot of bands in the last 20 years that are using that sort of sound. I've had a few at my music festival, International Pop Overthrow. So you kind of foreshadowed a movement that came about. Because I've never heard a song quite like that. And also, was that deep sound a synthesizer, or is that something else?
Yeah,
I love that. Yeah, probably.
That was another really. Did you arrange that song? Or?
No, that's all Kurt.
Oh, really? Okay.
Wow.
Michael Fennelly is a fantastic songwriter. He's kind of the showman of the group of the Millennium. He and I wrote a few songs together, but he was destined for big time. That he went on to do other things.
Well, Krabby Appleton and Go Back, which is another big all-time favorite of mine.
Yeah,
but yeah, Michael became more of a rocker when he left. But that was also the kind of sound that was happening
at the time.
So it makes sense.
He was from your area, Mark. He came to New Jersey or somewhere out there.
All right, cool. Yeah. Now, So
Okay.
Mellow as Sunshine, the new album come up. These are all demos essentially. From what period of time were you writing all this stuff? Was this all as you're going through all the various incarnations? This is just stuff you kind of put in the side. And where were these things recorded at in demo version? Or
okay, I guess I started doing all this when I started working with Steve Clark and Kurt Betcher at our productions. It's when I started writing and recording home demos, and did that all the way through, the Millennium Time and all that. It was just something that I truly loved to do. Today, with all the equipment and fancy things you can have for recording, it would have been so much easier. But I had 2-track sound on sound recorder. I had to mix as I go, just I got what I got. But I recorded all of those in a house I rented in North Hollywood, in the Valley, and it was a quiet neighborhood, and I just did that in my bedroom and just had a blast. Just
I gotta tell you, one of my favorite tracks out is "Silent Lonely Night." That just man, that just when I first heard that, that's a gorgeous song. Just one of my favorites I've heard in a long time. Beautiful song.
I wish that some of those songs could have been professionally recorded and arranged by Kurt. And he probably could have done wonders with some of those, but they came later. And also a lot of my demos were kind of hidden away. This is something I found out later. I published with 4 Star Music Company, and Kurt, and I always often wondered why I didn't get more placements of my song. And I found out later, Joey Steck told me, decades later, that Kurt told 4 Star not to show my music, that he was saving them for future Millennium albums. And so I'm going, oh my goodness, what could have happened, But anyway, that's water under the bridge.
Yeah.
Well, you know what though? What did happen was your songs were part of one of the most classic pop psych albums of all time. And that's something you should always be proud of. Seriously.
Yeah.
So
thank you. I'm very proud to have been part of all of that. Thanks to so many steps along the way, including the U.S. Army.
Well, that whole thing. Not being drafted, meeting Kurt, and the rest is history. Did you ever think when these reissues, and there's a whole lot of them, of course, I showed those, and here's another one, and yet here's another one. Oops, and then there's that on Sundays. Hold on. Yeah. Which is on Sound City Records, Joey Steck's label. Did you ever, when these things were coming out, were you absolutely amazed? Did you think there was interest out there?
I'm still amazed. But there are people all over the place that love this old stuff. I love it. Why not somebody else love it? You guys love it.
And as you know, there's a whole soft pop group on Facebook that loves it as well. So are you still in touch with any of the Millennium guys?
Sometimes Michael, he lives not too far from me.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, he's up there.
And then I spent quite a bit of time with Joey, but I haven't seen him in a few years now, though. Just those 2 guys. Yeah, I think there are only 4 of us left. I think the other.
Yeah, I got to know Joey. He lived less than a mile, about a mile from me, around 20 or so years ago. So I got to know him, and he and Lee Mallory actually played my music festival one year. And I have a story. I don't know if he'd want me to tell it, but I'm going to anyway. When they played, he had his Japanese girlfriend at the time, this young singer, beautiful girl. He wanted her to kind of do a little intro for him, and they were supposed to play some music over it. So I do my little, kind of like I introduced you. I do my little spiel on stage, and then she comes up, and the music's not going. Somehow the guy in the sound engineer messed up, didn't realize he was supposed to play it at that time, and Joey went ballistic. He started yelling at everybody. He yelled at me. He yelled at the door guy. He yelled at the sound guy. Everyone. Lee is the nicest man ever, as you probably know. Well, was. And he's sitting there like just looking so forlorn, like, oh, Joey, no.
Yeah. That perfectly describes their personalities right there.
Yeah, they finally got it right, and all was well. But we were all like, "Oh my God, do it over! It's not that bad." But boy, was he mad!
I can see it. I can so see it.
Yeah,
Lee was just totally laid back. He was just a laid back, nice guy.
He was such a sweetheart. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, Sandy, thank you so much for appearing with us.
Well, I've had a blast, guys.
I'm really glad.
Yeah,
this is fantastic. Sundazed is what the new album is coming out on Friday. It's 2 days from now. It's Salisbury, not Salisbury. Salisbury. Mellow as Sunshine. It's a wonderful vinyl. David's got the vinyl right there, and you've got the CD in your hands.
And the CD has bonus tracks, so don't forget you may want to buy both.
Yeah, I suggest buying both. Yeah, getting both. That comes out Friday on Sundays. Go to Sunday's website. Go to Amazon. Pick it up. It's fantastic. As I said, Silent Lonely Night. That's been in heavy rotation here at my house for the last week. Absolutely love it, and best of luck with everything, Sandy. It was an absolute pleasure getting to know you and talking with you here on Material Issues.
No, thank you so much. It's
Absolutely.
been a real pleasure.
Sandy, it meant this was an honor for me as a long time fan of your music. I never thought this would happen, so thank you.
Well, yeah. David and I have been together for a long time. We've just never known each other.
No.
That's great. So how do we say thank you in Hawaiian? Is it mahalo?
Mahalo.
No. Mahalo.
Mahalo.
Very good. There we go.
I will tell the elites you apologize for calling.
Please, I don't want to be on their enemies list. I actually like the sound of children.
I'm gonna have a T-shirt made for David for the holiday season that says that.
I love that.
That is just
Sandy, best wishes with everything, and we hope we've been down the road, but we hope to get you back here on Material Issues. We'll talk about everything else going on in your life, which is wonderful. So thank you for being here with us. It's been an absolute honor and pleasure, and you have a wonderful evening, my friend.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Goodbye.
Well, David, there you go.
What a nice man, as we knew he would be.
Yeah, that was absolutely wonderful. I mean, again, I always shake my head. We're coming up on 3 years of doing this show, 148 episodes, and we have just had some of the most wonderful guests. So many from the 60s and into the 70s of our genre: power pop, soft pop, sunshine pop. But it's just everything, and he's really a classic. He's a class act and a heck of a songwriter. And yeah, it was great, absolutely wonderful. And Sundays on Fridays, Sundays, mellow.
Sundays, absolutely.
Mellow as Sunshine, Sandy Salisbury. Pick it up, everybody. This Friday it comes out. Yeah, wonderful.
Yep. And we've got 2 more great guests coming up.
Yes, indeed.
Next week, a more modern soft pop rock individual, amazing songwriter, producer, jack of all trades, Linus of Hollywood. Yep. Will be our guest next week, Wednesday, April 10th on Material Issues. And apparently he's working on a new record, so we'll find out a little bit more about that, as well as of course everything else he's done. And then the following week, speaking of 60s guys, this is moving more into that sunshine pop vein, a little bit of psychedelic music. Those of us old enough certainly remember Red Rubber Ball and Turn Down Day, big hits by this band. They had 2 wonderful albums on Columbia Records, and a bunch of other singles that probably could have been on a 3rd album, but that didn't happen. But at least the 45 RPM records came out. But they have a brand new one called Revival, and I seem to have it right here. Yes, indeed.
Brand new album.
Just came out on Big Stir Records. Big shout out to Christina Bolbenko and Rex Broom of Big Stir for releasing this brand new record with a lot of new songs. It's called Revival, and indeed it is. And our guest will be the main man of the circle then and now, Mr. Don Daneman.
Yep.
Talking about the band's career and what they're doing now. And it's called Revival, and it indeed is not a cash in on the old stuff. This is a lot of brand new songs, and many of them written by the band, and just really good stuff. So
looking forward to that too.
This is available now through Big Stir, probably through Amazon, and of course at your local record shop. I would highly recommend you check it out.
Amazing.
And we've got some irons in the fire. I have some invites out.
Yep.
And hopefully by next week we'll have some more guests to tell you about.
Yeah, we might be talking about a Pop Detective Records roster person.
That'd be nice.
Coming up as well. So that's in the works. We got a lot of things, a lot of irons in the fire. Always some interesting things. So stay tuned. I mean, join the group here on Facebook. Subscribe over on YouTube at materialissues.com. And we send you out David sends a nice notice out on Monday. What's happening on Wednesday, and you can tune in live here on Material Issues. It's a wonderful ride.
You mean David?
David, yeah.
I'm adding an I to my name now.
You do spell it with 2 I's.
I'm going to have to add an I to my name and be David for now.
You got to change your name now.
I deserve it. And not in a good way or something.
Well, everybody, we'll see you again next week, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific, with Linus of Hollywood right here on Material Issues. David, love Tarina. Have a wonderful rest of your evening.
Yes, everyone have a great rest of your week. Have a great weekend, and we look forward to seeing you next week.
Good night.